My name is Amanda Rawsky. I am the assistant principal at the high school, and I am reading The BFG by Roald Dahl. She and the big friendly giant sat quietly side by side on the blue rock in the gathering dusk. Sophie had never felt so helpless in her life. After a while, she stood up and cried out, "I just can't stand it. Just think of those poor girls and boys who are going to be eaten alive in a few hours. We can't just sit here and do nothing. We've got to go get those brutes." "No," the BFG said. "We must," Sophie cried. "Why won't you go?" The BFG sighed and shook his head firmly. "I has told you 5 or 6 times," he said, "and the third time will be the last. I is never showing myself to human beings." "Why ever not? If I do, they will be putting me in the zoo with all the jiggy rats and caterpillars." "Nonsense," Sophie said. "And they will be sending you straight back to an orphanage," the BFG went on. "Grown-up human beings is not famous for their kindnesses. They is all squirfle rotters and gang sludgers." "That simply isn't true," Sophie cried angrily. "Some of them are very kind indeed." "Who?" the BFG said. "Name one." "The Queen of England," Sophie said. "You can't call her a squiffle rotter or a grink sludger." "Well," the BFG said, "you can't call her a sweet pip or a not mucher either," Sophie said, getting angrier and angrier. "The flesh lump eater is longing dearly to guzzle her up," the BFG said, smiling a little now. "Who? The Queen?" Sophie cried, aghast. "Yes," the BFG answered. "Flesh lump eater is always saying he would like to be eating the Queen, and he thinks perhaps she has an especially scrumdiddlyumptious flavor." "How dare he?" Sophie cried. "But Flesh Lump Eater says there is too many soldiers around her palace to try it." "He better not," Sophie said. "He is also saying he would like very much to guzzle one of the soldiers in his pretty red suit, but he is worried about those big furry black hats they is wearing. He thinks they might be sticking in his throat." "I hope he chokes," Sophie said. "Flesh Lump Eater is a very careful giant," the BFG said. Sophie was silent for a few moments. Then suddenly, in a voice filled with excitement, she cried out, "I've got it, by golly, I think I've got it." "Got what?" asked the BFG. "The answer," cried Sophie. "We'll go to the Queen. It's a terrific idea. If I went and told the Queen about these disgusting man-eating giants, I'm sure she'd do something about it." The BFG looked down at her sadly and shook its head. "She is never believing you," he said. "Never in a month of Mondays." "I think she would." "Never," the BFG said. "It is sounding such a wonky, tall story. The Queen would be laughing and saying, 'What awful rub squash.'" "She would not." "Of course she would," the BFG said. "It sounds like I has told you before that human beings is simply not believing in giants." "Then it's up to us to find a way of making her believe in them," Sophie said. "And how is you get it into the Queen to see her anyway?" the BFG asked. "Now hold on a second," Sophie said. "Just you hold on a sec, because I've got another idea." "Your ideas is full of crodswoggle," the BFG said. "Not this one," Sophie said. "You say if we tell the Queen, she would never believe us." "I is certain she wouldn't," the BFG said. "But we aren't going to tell her," Sophie said excitedly. "We don't have to tell her. We'll make her dream it."